You didn't read the articles about your stories to Sharon Churcher. I've read some articles. Let me just finish. You did not read the articles published by Sharon Churcher about your stories to Sharon Churcher. I have read some articles about what Sharon Churcher wrote. And a lot of the stuff that she writes, she takes things from my own mouth and changes them into her own words, as journalists do. And I never came back to her and told her to correct anything. What was done was done. There was nothing else I could do. So even if she printed something that were untrue, you didn't ask her to correct it, correct? There were things that she printed that really pissed me off, but there was nothing I could do about it. It's already out there. She printed things that were untrue, correct? Objection, mischaracterization. I wouldn't say that they were untrue. I would just say that she printed them as journalists take your words and turn them into something else. She got it wrong. Objection. In some ways, yes. Did she print things in her articles that you did not say to her? Mr. Edwards, I object and ask that the witness be given the opportunity to see the document so that she can review it and answer that question accurately. Otherwise, she's unable to answer the question. I'm not going to allow her to answer. You know the civil rules tell you not to suggest answers to your client. And you understand your lawyer is now directing you not all of a sudden remember what your answer is. That's what he's suggesting that you say. So you're not supposed to listen to him suggest that to you. You're supposed to tell me from your memory. Mr. Edwards, that is not what I'm... Did you... Mr. Edwards, that's not what I'm doing. You don't get to just talk over me and tell my client when not to listen to me. All you have to do to get answers is show her the document you're talking about, and I'll let her answer every question. I don't know why we're so scared of the actual documents. I don't know why you're scared of your client's recollection, Mr. Edwards, but anyway. Mr. Edwards, why would you do this to her? Did Sharon Churcher print things that you did not say? Mr. Edwards, I'm going to instruct my client not to answer unless you give her what it is that you're talking about that was printed. And she will tell you the answer, the accurate answer to your question. Just without the document to refresh her recollection and see it, she's not going to answer the question. Did Sharon Churcher print things that you did not say? Same objection, same instruction not to answer. I think I've made a very clear record as to why I want my client to answer all of these questions, but I want her to have the fair opportunity to see this document. Did Sharon Churcher print things that you felt were inaccurate? Same objection, same instruction. If she sees the document, she's going to answer every one of these questions. Did any other reporter print statements that you believe are inaccurate? Mr. Edwards, same objection, same instruction. Did any reporter print statements about Ghislaine Maxwell that were inaccurate? Objection, same instruction. This is harassing. This is harassing a sexual abuse victim, and all I'm asking is for fairness, that we just let her see the document so she can answer this. Mr. Edwards, please stop saying anything other than objection. What the basis is, or instructing your client not to answer. Mr. Edwards, I will do that. That's what the federal rules of civil procedure provide. Mr. Edwards, I hear you. They also provide for fairness and civility, and all I'm asking, very calmly, is for her to see this. Mr. Edwards, this is not your deposition. I'm asking your client what she remembers. If she doesn't want to talk about what she remembers, then let her not answer, but you cannot instruct her not to answer unless there's a privilege. What privilege? Mr. Edwards, I'm instructing her not to answer. All right, you are refusing to answer questions about whether statements to the press about Ghislaine Maxwell attributed to you were inaccurate. Mr. Edwards, she's not refusing not to answer. You are refusing to show me these documents so I could answer properly. I would give you an answer if you were to show me some documents. You can't say without looking at a document whether the press attributed to you is accurate or inaccurate. Please show me the document. You can't say from the top of your head whether any inaccurate statement has been attributed to you in the press. Please show me a document and I will tell you. Are you refusing to answer my questions about your knowledge of whether inaccurate statements have been attributed to you in the press? Are you refusing to give me the documents to look at? Are you refusing to answer the question? I am refusing to answer the question based upon the fact that you are not being fair enough to let me see the document in order to give you an honest answer. Ms. Giuffre, yes? We are talking about press that has been published on the internet, correct? Yes. Do you have access to the internet? Yes. Have you looked on the internet and read articles that attribute statements to you about Ghislaine Maxwell? Yes. Do you know any statement that has been attributed to you in a press article on the internet about Ghislaine Maxwell that is untrue? Mr. Edwards, same objection, same instruction. Please show me a specific document. Do you know of any such statement about Ghislaine Maxwell attributed to you by the press that is inaccurate? If you could please show me a specific document. Tell me what Sharon Churcher asked you to write for her. Any knowledge that I had about my time with blank. And did you write it? What did you write it in or on? Paper. What kind of paper? Lined paper. Was it in a book or single sheets? Single sheets. And did you write a long document or a short document? What was it? I can't recall how long the document was, but I wouldn't say it would be a few pages. And other than asking you to write whatever you remember about blank, did she give you any other directions about what you should write? She was interested in two things really. How Epstein got away with so many counts of child trafficking for sex and how blank was involved in it. Those were her two main inquiries. What did she ask you to write? She asked me to write about blank. Did she tell you to put it in your own handwriting? No, she just asked me to write down what I can remember. Did you give her everything that you wrote? Did I give her the whole entire pages that I wrote? Yes. Yeah, I wrote pages for her specifically. In your own handwriting. In my own handwriting. And what you wrote, was that true? Yes. And did you get paid for those pieces of paper? Not for the papers, I don't believe. Okay, have you gotten paid when they've been reprinted? No. Have you negotiated any deal with Radar Online? No. Have you negotiated any deal with Sharon Churcher for the purpose of publishing those pieces of paper? Not those pieces of paper. When did you write those pieces of paper? Objection. A week before she came out. And when did you give them to her? When she came out. When was that? Sometime, I believe, in early 2011. What did you get paid for, if not for those pieces of paper? Objection. I was paid for the picture with blank blank with his arm around me, Ghislaine in the background, and I was paid for the print of the stories. Anything else? No. You were not paid for those pieces of paper? No. All right, and how many pieces of paper did you write? Like I said, I'm rounding it around 3. 3 pieces of paper. That's what I don't remember to be exact on a number, I'm sorry, but over 3 pages. And you wrote those sometime in 2011. The week that she was coming out to see me. And you gave them to her, right? I gave them to her. Did you keep a copy of that? No. Did you rip them out to make them look like they came out of a journal? No. Were you directed to make them look like they came out of a journal? No. Do you know why your lawyer would have told the federal judge in New York that's what you did? Objection. My lawyer in New York. Ripped them out of a journal. Said that you had. Do you know why she would have said that? Maybe she thought I did. But you didn't. They were just pieces of paper written for Sharon Church's purpose and not directed to look like they came from a journal. Nobody told me to make them look like they came from a journal. They were just pieces of paper that I wrote down for Sharon Churcher. Did Ghislaine Maxwell tell blank that you were 16 years old? No, I think they had played the guessing game and I was 17. And so Ghislaine Maxwell did not tell blank that you were only 16. Objection, speculation. In your presence. I don't remember the exact conversation. I just remember they liked to play the guessing game a lot. And so you don't recall Ghislaine Maxwell telling blank in your presence that you were, quote, only 16, right? Correct, I don't remember that. And if that were in the paper, that would be untrue, correct? Correct. I think now might be a good time for a break. Thank you. Mr. Edwards, okay, sounds good. Videographer, we're off the record at 2:45. Recess taken from 2:45 p.m. to 2:55 p.m. Videographer, we're back on the record at 2:55. Do you have any photographs of yourself either nude or in a sexually compromising position that you claim were taken by Ghislaine Maxwell? I do not have any of those in my evidence, but if you ask Ghislaine Maxwell, she would have plenty. Do you have any in your storage boxes in Sydney? No. Do you know whether your attorneys have any such photographs that you claim were taken by Ghislaine Maxwell? No. You don't know, or they don't have them? I don't know, and I don't think they have them. If they had them, they would have told me. You should ask your client, she's got plenty of them. What type of camera did Ghislaine Maxwell use? It was a black camera and it had I don't know the type of names of them, but the lens that goes out. Was it digital or single reflex? Again, I don't know types of cameras. I mean, I use my phone for using a camera. So it's a black camera and it had a lens that you could put out further or bring back. Did you ask her to take any photographs of you? No, she asked to take photographs of me. Was it a film or a digital camera? I never saw how she printed them out. What's the first time you told anybody that you had been sexually trafficked? Mr. Edwards, form. Tony Figueroa, my ex-boyfriend, knew some of the stuff that was happening, though I did not go into great detail to him, being that he's my boyfriend. And then the first person I really opened up to about everything was my husband. Did you tell Tony Figueroa that you were forced to have sex with Jeffrey Epstein? Yes. Did you tell Tony Figueroa you were forced to have sex with Ghislaine Maxwell? Yes. Did you tell blank that Ghislaine Maxwell sent you to have sex with famous people? Yes. When did you tell blank that? During conversations, like I'd call him from places that I was at and just talk to him. And like I said, I wouldn't get into great detail about things. But you know, I had to be with this person or that person today, and did you tell blank not to call the police? No. Blank enjoyed his lifestyle with me, so he wouldn't have gone to the police. Did you tell blank that you were sexually trafficked? You know, I don't know what I told Blank at the time. I know he asked me and I think I told him, but I didn't get into detail with him. What do you think you told him? That I wasn't just massaging these people. Did you tell him what you were doing with Jeffrey Epstein? Yes. Did you tell Blank what you were doing with Ghislaine Maxwell? Yes. Did you tell him what you were doing to other people? I don't think I told him about many other people, no. What people did you tell him about? Mainly Ghislaine and Jeffrey. When did you tell him that? From the start. When was the start that you told him? From, I wouldn't say the first meeting, but I told him around that time. And what did Blank tell you to do? He didn't mind what I had to do. Again, he was another guy that used me because I made lots of money, and he didn't tell me to do anything. Did he tell you not to tell the police? No, he didn't tell me not to do anything. Did he tell you to tell the police? Again, he didn't tell me to do anything. When did you tell your parents that you were sexually trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein? After I had my kids. When did you tell your parents that you were sexually trafficked by Ghislaine Maxwell? I told them the same time about Jeffrey and Ghislaine, so sometime after I had my children. After you had had all 3 children, or after you had had your first child? I think after I had had all 3 of my children. What was the last year in which you had a child? 2010. So you believe you told your parents sometime after 2010 that you had been sexually trafficked? Yes. You didn't tell your parents that you had a lawsuit entitled Jane Doe 102 versus Jeffrey Epstein in 2009? I wasn't very close with my parents. Why not? We just had a hard relationship. Why? Because we did. I don't know why. Some people just don't get along. Do you get along with your parents now? I get along with my parents now, yes. Okay, have you ever told anyone that you were a sex slave for 4 years? Under the assumption that I got my dates wrong, yes, I probably have. And that's not true, correct? Not because I didn't mean it to be true, just because I didn't know my dates. So 4 years is not 2 years, correct? Objection. 4 years is not 2 years. What did your parents say when you told them that you had been sexually trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell? I believe they were disgusted. What did they tell you to do or not to do? I don't remember the exact conversations that we had, but they weren't happy. Were they both on the phone at the same time? No. Who was on the phone first? Objection. I don't know. You were in Australia at the time, correct? Yes. They were not? Yes. Have they ever been to see you in Australia? My dad has. Has your mum ever been to see you in Australia? No, my mum is afraid of flying. When did your dad come to see you in Australia? The birth of my son, my first one, in 2006. And then I believe in 2010, when my daughter was born. And did you have this conversation with your dad about this in person or on the phone? I've had conversations with him about it since. I'm talking about the first time you had a conversation with your dad. On the phone. What caused you to tell him in 2010? I was just starting to accept what I had been through. I think for 10, however long, many years, I mean over 10 years, I had tried to start a new life, become a new person. And I wanted to put all of that stuff behind me and not think about it. But after you have children, something changes in you and You just want to stand up and do the right thing and protect any other children from having to go through this. Did you tell your parents how much money you received from your settlement with Jeffrey Epstein? No. That is I think there's like a non-disclosure statement. I don't know exactly what the legal term is, but did you send any money to your parents? No, I don't know. No, I've never sent money to my parents. Who is blank? One of blank's shady friends. Did you talk to blank about your involvement with Jeffrey Epstein? No. Did you ever live with blank? No, he used to come over to my house. Between 2000 and 2002, did you ever have any interactions with law enforcement? Yes. When? When I tried to break away from Jeffrey and Ghislaine, I started making myself unavailable, and I got a job at Roadhouse Grill. And Tony used to come pick me up in the afternoons at night time, and he'd sit at the bar, and there's this big cup that's got tips in it. I was in the back room, and first you have to sign out, and you have to take off your aprons, put your aprons away, and there's a whole bunch of cleaning up stuff you have to do. In that time period, Tony grabbed money from a cup that had money in it. That was for the bartenders for their tips. My boss called me the next day. He told me that I had stolen the money, which I hadn't. And I came back and I returned the money after I confronted Tony about it. Gave the money back to him and he said, "I'm sorry, but it's just law that I have to call the police." So he called the police. And knowing that Jeffrey has got the Palm Beach Police Department in his pocket, I went to Jeffrey Epstein and I told him what had happened. And Jeffrey said, "Don't worry about it, let me take care of it for you." Okay, I'm sorry. When did you have interaction with law enforcement then? What year? Did you speak with law enforcement officer? I don't believe I spoke to them. Jeffrey handled everything. Okay. And you said that you had finished your shift this is at the Roadhouse Grill, correct? Correct. You had finished your shift? Yeah, it was the end of the shift. Okay, and you had cleaned up and were checking out, correct? Yeah, it's a completely separate part of it's like back of the house. Do you know what that means, like in waitering terms? Indicating. Yeah, back of the house. And who was this boss that you spoke to? I can't remember his name. Okay. But I mean, he was very nice. He didn't want to, but he just had to because it's just the law. You know, the money was returned to him, but he still had to do what he had to do. You paid him back the money the next day. Very next day. And did you ever speak with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office about it? You know, I don't know if they called me or not, but I know that since my boss told me he had to call the police, I went to Jeffrey, and Jeffrey said he'd handle it. How old were you at the time? I don't know, 18, maybe 19? You weren't a juvenile, were you? Well, juvenile being under 18, no. Is that the only interaction with law enforcement that you had between 2000 and 2002? Correct. Were you in fact charged with theft based on that case? No charges were ever brought to me. Do you know if they were filed? No, Jeffrey told me he'd handle it, and I never heard anything about it ever again. Did you ever check to see if you had a warrant out? No, Jeffrey told me that he took care of it. Do you think it's a problem to leave the country when you have an outstanding warrant? Objection, foundation. I don't think I have an outstanding warrant. Why would I? Do you have a document that says I have an outstanding warrant? I'm just asking if you believe it's a bad thing to leave the country when you have an outstanding warrant. Absolutely. And you would never assist someone in doing that, correct? Correct. During the year 2015, have you spoken to law enforcement about any topic other than Ghislaine Maxwell? In 2015? Did I talk to any law enforcement about Ghislaine Maxwell? About anything other than Ghislaine Maxwell? Mr. Edwards. And I would just object at this point in time and instruct the witness not to convey any answers as to who she has or who she has not disclosed until such time as the court rules on the current outstanding motion. I know that we have some obligations to fulfil by the 4th. We intend to do that. And I also recognise we may be back to answer some of these questions. But for today, she's not going to answer those questions. Well, I'm just going to ask them and... Mr. Edwards, I understand. Have you spoken to any law enforcement in Colorado since the beginning of January 2015? I can't answer that question right now. Mr. Edwards, hold on 1 second. I may be able to get you an answer to that question. Can I just take a quick break, and I think I can answer that particular question for you. I'm not asking you to answer any questions. Mr. Edwards, fine. Mr. Edwards? Fine. I appreciate it, but I'm asking the witness to answer these questions. Mr. Edwards, I know I'm just trying to help you today. For today, don't answer the questions. I don't mind explaining. Mr. Edwards, I know, but you... Okay. Mr. Edwards, I wanted to help. Okay. So, have you spoken to any law enforcement officers in Colorado since January of 2015 until today? I am not answering that question. Have your attorney spoken to any law enforcement officers in Colorado since the beginning of 2015 until today? I'm not answering that question. Have you been living with your husband in Australia since October of 2015? Yes. Blank blank, a whole page of blank. Other terms of his probationary period? No, he went to everything that he was supposed to go to. Has he paid his fines? Yes, as far as I know. Describe for me the contract that you had with the Mail on Sunday. Could you be a little bit more specific? Like, have you had more than one contract with the Mail on Sunday? Well, there was one contract for the picture, and that was to pay me $140,000 for the picture. And then 2 stories were printed after that for the amount of $10,000 each. Is that the only money that you received from the Mail on Sunday? Correct. Did you receive any money for syndication of the photograph? Isn't that what the 140 was for? I'm asking you. Well, I don't really know what syndication means. Did you have a written contract with the Mail on Sunday? Yes. Where is that contract right now? I don't know. I've moved that many times. I lose paperwork wherever I go. Is it possible it's in the boxes in Sydney? I don't think I kept it, to be honest. Did you ever refer back to it after you signed it? I know I kept it for a short while, but I mean, like I said, I've moved countries twice in the last 2 years and 3 different houses. So the paper trail is lost. I don't know where it would be. Did you receive it via email? No, I received it. Sharon Churcher handed it to me by paper. And you signed it? I signed it. And then, did you make a copy of it? No. You never had a copy of it? Well, I had my own copy. I'm sure she has hers. Do you recall there being a period of exclusivity? Yes. What was that period? I believe it was like a 3-month period or something. Okay, and what other terms of the contract do you recall? I couldn't talk to any other news publication about the story. Anything else? Not that I know of. Were you happy when the period was up? Well, I mean, at the time I wanted to write about my story, so I guess yes, I was happy when that period was up. And you were actively writing a book at that time, correct? My manuscript, I've never published it.